do it live. It.
CORNdiff.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I like to start off with a little quirky question to put you on the spot.
Ooh.
What is CORNdiff's definition of a hater?
Okay. Hater. Someone that's got almost a personal vendetta out against someone, and they relentlessly troll them.
That was my next question. What is your definition of a troll? Because I always hear haters and the trolls. Haters and the trolls. Like they're always distinctly separated. And I'm wondering what your thought is on what that distinction is.
I think they're very similar. The haters might be a step more aggressive.
Or you're a fan. It can't be anything in between. You have to be a fan, or you're a hater, or you're a troll. There's no on the fence.
Yeah, everyone wants you to pick sides, and it's either like them or you're firmly against them for some reason. You can't just be a viewer anymore.
And now my question is, going into the interview, where do you fit in? Where do you see yourself in the online hater, online troll, or observer?
I would say I'm I have probably been considered a troll in some circles, but nothing relentless. I lose interest real quick, so I don't stick around. And why I don't know. I don't enjoy being negative constantly. It just takes a toll on you. So I try to be more positive whenever possible.
Yeah, I can see that. Why do you think you may have been labeled part troll?
Well, I mean, say in the MLC chats, if it's I really like. Can I curse on here? Is that
absolutely?
Okay, so I really enjoy with Chad and Kevin.
Okay, so you were kind of trolling Chad Zumock and Kevin Brennan a little bit.
Only because they seem, and I don't even think it actually gets to them. I think it's just that's their bit. They like the drama. The drama brings viewers, and super chats follow. And
seems to be seems to be the workflow.
Yeah, it does. But they do seem to be good at feeding off of that negative energy and turning it into entertainment. So I guess I thank them for allowing us to vent so openly in their chats. It's a fun time, but yeah, I could see that being why some would consider me a troll.
So where did you make the leap from a chat participant audience member, I guess you would say, in today's digital landscape, to being actually out front, sort of in between, and then in some aspects interviewing some of these folks like Chad Zumock and having guest spots on Opie's radio podcasts and live streams?
It's multiple sources, because watching Carl from WATP and watching Cardiff Electric have fun with his Stuttering John coverage. It really just spoke to me that these people are doing something that they enjoy. They're really having fun with it, and they're building an audience of like-minded people that are having fun with them. It just seemed fun. It seemed really fun. It seemed out of reach, though. I'm a very introverted type of person, so when I saw Cardiff doing his potato filter, that kind of made it click with me that, hey, I've never thought of doing something like that, or like El Harible does. Aaron, April, they're both great people also. They're another influence in me doing all this. I had stumbled across them prior to CORNdiff being
is that right?
Birthed.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, most of the Dabbleverse people. I mean, Carlos Danger was an inspiration. I mean, everyone was. It's just you see a community of people having as much fun as they have, and it's hard to not want to join in. So went and found the corn filter and just started pretty much playing pretend. So it's been fun.
if a community's having a lot of fun, there's a punching bag to that. So how do we feel about like Stuttering John and in a way Chad Zumock, like being on the sort of opposite end of this material that everyone's making fun of, right?
I don't know. I wish they would lean into it. It would be. I have no idea what that would turn out to be like. I mean, it would take a lot of the wind out of the sails of the Dabbleverse. I think if John Melendez leaned into the jokes that everyone makes and all that, but I don't think that type of person is capable of doing that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. That's definitely been a sort of the Dabbleverse, so to speak. View is lean into it, but you know, being a neutral, I try to look at everything from both sides, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's easy to say lean into it. Now granted, they do idiotic behavior, so it's kind of like
they don't help themselves.
No. Like I come from the Stern universe, so I guess you would consider myself an observer in the Dabbleverse because it starts with Stern, which then brought forth Stuttering John. So I've known a Stuttering John literally since 1992. I mean, it goes way back. I remember watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here when John was on it, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I go that.
I never caught those.
Yeah, I'll go that far back. And I was a fan. Like I was pulling for him. And
was he likable?
He was.
More so?
He definitely was, in my opinion. He's not like he is today. Today, and that's a lot of my criticisms of like Opie and John. It's like I totally respect what you guys did back in the day, and it was good stuff. I'm just commenting on the last couple of years that you are putting out there, making people pay for, accepting super chats. So I think I'd probably be labeled a hater or whatever, but no, I do respect those guys. I do respect John. I do respect Opie. And yeah, John was very likable. He was on the fucking Tonight Show. Anyone could say whatever the they want. That's a big deal. Fourth row.
Oh, yeah.
In the writing room, wherever, for 10 plus years. However he got it, he was there. Right?
Yeah. That's an achievement. Do you think he'll come back?
I think if he embraced the hackiness,
I hope he does.
and people make fun of this, but I think John's funny when he is hacky. If you look into John's humor with a different comedic sensibility, you're not going to think it's funny. But for his age and for the time, and for a certain piece of the audience, he's hacky, and he's funnier when he's hacky, in my opinion, when he embraces the hackiness and he says hacky jokes.
Yeah, it's when he takes things too serious that it kind of falls apart.
Man, it's all his fault, man. It's all his fault. It really is. And I don't know if he can. I don't know how he'd embrace it. I think you just gotta. If you embrace it, you become kind of like you're always the joke. So I don't know. I mean, I just think
I get that. I mean, it's a tough spot for him to be in, I would think.
I just think he needs to like do a good show. Ask interesting questions, you know?
Yeah.
Prep.
Yeah. That would be a big improvement.
Wash your hands.
Get a new mic filter.
Yeah. And actually do what you say.
Yes. Follow through. Be trustworthy.
What do you think about people taking things personally?
I mean, it's something we can't get around. It's just part of being human, but it's people taking things personally is probably what leads to the majority of disputes and arguments, especially online.
Absolutely. That's a great point. So great point.
It's not great. And I do it myself too. I mean, just this morning I saw some comments that I was kind of like, well, that's shitty. I wasn't that bad, was I? And then I just kind of brush it off. And later I'm reading good comments. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, I should. You have to ignore a lot of the hate because there's just a lot of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because once again, you're going from the chat world into now you are the focus of the chats and the comments. I remember when you were early on starting your character. I don't know how I came across you, honestly. I think it was a Chad Zumock interview, which I really want to get into. But I remember seeing you like start to make the corn out of velvet, and then you were starting to look like some AI stuff, and it was like you're bringing this character to life, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got an interview with Chad Zumock.
Yeah, I was just as surprised as everyone else that he agreed to that. But it was fun and awkward.
Yeah, very awkward, very awkward. And that's what makes it to me funny. I'm fascinated with that interview.
Thank you. Yeah, I can give you a little backstory on how it got started.
I'd love the backstory.
So I had reached out to him. I wanted to get Zia Anderson. She was my goal for my first interview.
Okay.
She's Chip Chipperson, Jim Norton's co-host. Couldn't get her. She's busy. She stays busy. But I still wanted to get that first interview out of the way. So while waiting on her, I figured I would try to get some practice in. And that was around, I guess, the time that there's a lot of Chad stuff going on. I figured, yeah, hell, I'll message him. So I got on Patreon, figured this would be the most likely place to get his attention rather than just random chats and comments and stuff.
All right.
And I signed up for his Patreon, despite what he says. I did pay him for like a month. And I messaged him. We talked. It was real sporadic for felt like a few weeks. And it would be 5-6 days before he would get back to me. Just, I don't know. It didn't look like it was going to happen. And then randomly, he seemed like he was turning around, and it sounded like he'd be open to the idea of an interview. So I told him I need to be up front. I'm CORNdiff. And for whatever reason, he kept talking to me. And I didn't believe the interview would happen all the way up until the point when he joined the interview. Mm-hmm. I was surprised he joined, mm-hmm. and even more surprised that he stayed.
Yeah, for 32 glorious minutes.
Yeah, we made it through that half hour. Yeah, he wasn't a fan of mine.
You have the countdown. It's very dramatic, and then he's there.
Yes, and I'm still trying to figure out intros and all that shit. So it was really awkward. I had him backstage. I was like, all right, well, let me figure out how to do some prime time type intro shit here. And mm-hmm. It's very rough the whole episode and everything I do still. But yeah, and then it just brought him on, and it seemed like it was going fine for about the first 5, maybe 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it was downhill from there. Our guest today is a controversial one. He's a comedian and self-proclaimed mud shark, a co-host / paid guest of the MLC podcast with the one and only brother of Neil Brennan. If you dabble in cringe, you probably already know who I'm speaking of, Mr. Chad Zumock. Hello and welcome to the show, sir.
God bless you so much. Thank you for having me.
I think it was the intro that might have pissed him off. Mm-hmm. I said something about him being cringe, kind of like if you dabble in cringe was part of the intro.
Sure, I saw that.
But the part that it seemed like he really bit on was when I said he was controversial.
I know. I was going to say that. That's what he jumped on, controversial.
I'm controversial. I love that. I think it's hilarious because I do nothing to nobody at any time. All I do is my job, and I call out bullshit. That's all I do.
Yeah, and it seemed like that's what he got kind of more progressively pissed off about, and I don't get that. I would have thought it would be the cringe part, but then again, he's a self-proclaimed mud shark, so sure. He should be good with people saying things like, if you dabble in cringe, if on a daily basis he goes around referring to himself as a mud shark.
Right.
Also, anything I throw at Chad's going to be it's going to be a softball compared to anything MLC throws at him on a daily basis.
I thought you were throwing him some hard balls, honestly. I thought you were throwing some softballs. I thought you were throwing him some balls where he could have taken it in either direction, and it was interesting what direction he chose to go. I thought it was cool that you actually wrote something like that. Like you actually had something you thought about to as an intro to whoever your guest was.
I was trying to take it serious and ask semi tough questions that would kind of probe and give me an idea about who this man is.
I thought it was creative, and I thought the moment I think it went downhill was right there. And I think the second part it really went downhill, which might be my favorite part of the entire interview, is when you're like, all right, let's start the interview after y'all have been going back and forth for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then you do this sound drop.
Let's go ahead and begin.
Why'd you have the dumb sound effect?
And he over it.
Oh, when he heard that, it was like someone just kicked him in the gut.
Yes, and I still don't understand that. It's just it's one of the most harmless sound effects.
It really shifted at that moment. It was like he was insulted by it. And it was like this moment where no one said anything. And it's like looking at your face, your eyes and mouth, and then looking at him. And it was like this 5 seconds of awkward silence. It was my favorite part.
Gotta let it cook.
I credit him for creating a moment like that with you. I mean, he should embrace that interview, because I think it took both of you naturally to make something interesting happen.
Yes, definitely. He 2 people were there, and it wouldn't have happened without both of them. So, in a sad, unfortunate way, I owe a lot of where the corn is at today to Chad Zumock, because of that controversy. Whether he likes it or not.
Yeah, that's definitely where I saw you first. I remember like Steel Toe and all the reactionary sites were like, Chad Zumock, gets into it with a piece of corn, and that was the narrative.
Well, because I don't go along with the narrative.
Yeah. Says a corn tricked him.
What do you think Chad Zumock means by the quote unquote narrative? It sounds like a New World Order kind of like cabal, like the podcasting comedic cabal.
I think narrative is anything for Chad. It's anything he doesn't agree with.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I really do. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, that's very good answer. Very good answer. I think that sums it up for sure. When I heard about this interview, I wanted to watch it, and so I watched it with an open mind. I do find him interesting. I think he's funnier than people give him. I think he's become a punching bag, and I think that roast really hurt him for some reason.
The Kevin Brennan one?
Yeah.
I think it did. Yeah. Yes. I saw that. It didn't look like he had a good time doing that one.
I think it was ballsy though. It took a lot of balls to go up there. I thought his material was okay. I didn't think it was that bad.
I would have done 10 times worse.
Yeah.
10 times worse. I'll give him. I've got to give him credit. He does something that I would not have the courage to do, standing up on a stage like that.
Dude, that was in a room of vipers, man.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could have done that.
Sometimes I feel like Chad Zumock is a work, like in wrestling terms, where he's doing an act.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he's 110% honest, and he floats between the two from one moment to the other.
Yeah, and it doesn't. There's never an indication of that transition, so you don't know who you're dealing with at any given moment, I think.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like one second he would answer one of your serious questions in a serious tone, in a serious way, and then the next second he'd answer a question that was similar, where he was just totally pissed off.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to do with that, to be honest.
Like I'm listening to you more than I am him. I'm like, where as a host, as an interviewer, going to go with this reaction? And I thought you handled it good. I thought you were funny. The funniest line I think you had was,
put myself in a bad position. I love doing stand-up. I love writing the joke and performing it. I didn't sign up for this to talk to Korn. This is stupid. This is retarded. No disrespect, CORNdiff, but literally I'm talking to Korn.
He goes, no offense, I didn't sign up to speak to a piece of corn on the internet. Which is the most awful insult you can say to you, with due respect. And you go, none taken.
None taken.
if you two would do a show together and keep that same energy, I would totally watch it and subscribe to it.
I don't know if my heart could hold up to that type of interaction daily. Again, I'd love to talk to him again if he would, but I doubt that'll happen.
I think as an interviewer, you just want to know ahead of time, what am I getting here? Be confident enough as an interviewer to go whatever direction they throw at you.
Yeah. Or in my case, be ignorant enough as an interviewer to just dive into it.
I do think that your questions were pretty good. And I thought the part where you asked him rank the names between 1 and 10, I thought that was really going to piss him off. And he really cooperated.
I didn't think he would play along with that.
Yeah, I think that was the most honest he was in that entire interview.
Yeah, and that was a good time. That was kind of a flip a coin as far as if that was going to work out. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. But he went along with it just instantly as soon as I suggested the idea, and once he understood the rules, we were playing.
Let me ask you this, CORNdiff. What were your expectations going into that interview, and what were your realistic experiences coming out of it?
I would say I was only hopeful. My realistic expectations were probably that it wasn't going to go well.
Interesting.
But I typically assume the worst, so that's not uncommon for me. But I didn't think it would go that bad. But I was hopeful that during the interview we could have conversation. I would ask him questions, he would answer them genuinely, and we would have walked away from it, not necessarily being pals or buddies or anything, but with there being no animosity or anything like that. Sure. I was hoping we would be at least cordial with each other going forward.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, I saw him on MLC maybe last week or early this week say that he didn't expect you to pop up with the corn filter.
Right.
Like that to him was a shock. So immediately, the moment he saw that, he was pissed off from that moment on.
I heard that.
What do you think of that?
I feel like he's lying. In the Patreon communications that we had early on, after a couple of weeks of back and forth with him, I made it clear that I was CORNdiff. And
you were CORNdiff, but did that mean using a filter in a live interview?
Good point. He might have assumed, hey, this guy's, I don't know why I would though. This guy's telling me he's CORNdiff.
I speak Zumock. I swear I speak Zumock, which is crazy.
I needed you to translate for me then. But still, there is the backstage area of StreamYards, and we did talk for about 20, maybe 30 seconds prior to going live. I was the corn.
He had 30 seconds to duck out.
He could have bailed. And no one would have. Who would have given Chad shit for bailing on an ear of corn? No one.
And I think you really gave him some things that he could have taken and drew some sort of comedic value from, sort of like lobbing him softballs where he can actually riff off of. Maybe he just didn't feel like riffing.
I think that's it, and that's all I was trying to do. I mean, I didn't think the questions were too tough. Some of them were. I don't recall them, but I feel like some of them were kind of maybe would be deep thinkers for him. But I was trying to keep it lighthearted, but still learn a little bit about him.
Mm-hmm. To his defense, for like with me, you're my fifth interview. I sort of let people know beforehand, this is kind of where I go and this is what I do. Does that make sense?
It does. So I don't know. I've had 3-4 interviews now, and this is the I'm still figuring out what my style is, and that was something I was very upfront about. Also, was that I've never done this before.
Yeah, you were. I
let him know that, hey, I've never done this, but that's the type of person that I got back, or that's the energy he was throwing back at me. So I don't know. It didn't seem right.
Remember in the beginning, I mentioned Kevin Brennan's roast and how Chad Zumock was in a den of sharks. Is that what I said?
Yeah, something to that.
Something like that. Well, he was being attacked. Now he's the attacker. When he sensed that from you, I feel like he went into like "fuck with you" mode.
You think it's the shark side of him? He smelled blood in the water and went after it.
People that get bullied tend to bully in return to, you know.
Yeah, but it's at his age, you typically grow out of that. I think everyone has anger and rage issues, and most of us hopefully are working through that. I guess
he has a chip on his shoulder. Honestly, he's like that old guard, which I mentioned with Aaron from Steel Toe. They don't feel like anyone else deserves any attention.
I don't understand that either. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't get that mindset.
Aaron's point of view is a good point of view. He said that they're jealous not so much of personality or talent. They're jealous that it's so much easier to do today than it was, say, 20 years ago.
I can understand that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can pop on and get 500 subscribers with an interview with Chad Zumock that went sideways.
Yeah.
They don't like sharing the attention. And Stern was like that. That's one thing I noticed about Howard Stern, being a Stern fan. He did not like anyone else in the spotlight.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't pay anyone anything for the most part. Not for now, granted, you know, I heard Shuley making a point that you didn't have to go on Stern's show and blabber about your personal life. You know, that's a personal choice. People went in there, and when they go in there, they're volunteering themselves to this. You know what you're going to get when you go in studio, and they do it. So there's no excuse.
Yeah, I agree.
But they didn't get paid for it, and I think that's a shame. Just like the Whack Packers. I think the Whack Packers should have been given something.
But that was I guess that was common back then, right? That level of
there's letting someone there's like giving someone an opportunity.
Not saying it was right, but I think maybe
it's like this. It's like giving someone an opportunity. They're like, well, you're on a Howard Stern show, but then they're like, don't use the Howard name ever.
Yeah. I don't know why everyone should be able to benefit. I think there's enough viewers out there, and to where any one person can find countless like-minded individuals to follow them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think you're right. That brings me to Opie. I assume you're an O&A fan.
Yeah. O&A fan from, I guess, back in 05 or 6, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
Back right after sometime shortly after they got on to XM radio. That's when I started listening and got hooked on that.
Mm-hmm. What are your feelings on O&A as a whole and individually?
Still a fan of both of them. Just now individually, it feels kind of like if and my parents are still together, but it feels like if you have parents that go through a divorce, a messy divorce, but still you see both of them. I can still appreciate both of them and what they do.
I think divorce is exactly what it's like, you know, because generally in divorce situations and with each parent, there's things you like about each parent and there are things you don't like about each parent, and you have to take both. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see being fans of both of them. I think together they made magic, and I heard Anthony saying this the other day, and Opie says the same thing. They both say it, but they have different ways of saying it, different spins on things. I'm sort of more in tune with Anthony's spin on things, for two reasons. I think for one, he's still the same kind of person. I think Opie, whatever he's been doing lately, like the last several years, Opie has just seemed not to really grab my attention much. Seems very whiny, always bitching about stuff. He's in cars, people breaking his windows. He's too cheap to pay for parking. It's just like, you know, I don't know. I just don't find anything entertaining in hearing that.
I I tuned out for a while, I'll be honest. But I did the same with Anthony. I tuned out from the whole that whole world for a few years at least, and I just got into other hobbies. But I got back into the Anthony side of things, and then I would watch some of the Opie radio stuff here and there, and it just started catching my attention more and more. I don't know if he's finding his rhythm or I'm not sure what it is, but it feels like he's having more fun in recent months than he has in recent years, I guess. So I'm on board with that. I hope he continues down that. I want to see him succeed and have fun doing it.
Yeah, I do too. I think he was really great at facilitating conversations, which is not easy to do. And I think I go back, I discovered him on YouTube after the show was over. I think he was some of his arguments were on point. I think some of his fights with Anthony, he was in the right.
Yeah. I think they both had their flaws. Both of them did. Just like everyone, no one's perfect, but it'd be great if they could work some of that out. But I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed at this point.
I don't ever see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either.
See it and it really doesn't need to happen. I mean,
no.
Like a bad marriage or like a marriage, it was once a good marriage, and you just got to look back on those times.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from what it was at that time. It's just changed.
No, I think there's a lot of factors involved in it. You look at one guy and he sort of maintained the same circle, and the other guy sort of been misaligned. So you wonder if there's a problem there. I have to admit, though, since he's brought the vegetables on, you're my favorite. And when he revealed part of himself that I never knew he's had in many years, and I'm like, oh, this is the Opie I kind of like. He's actually rolling with it. He's being funny. He's like, okay, you know what? Forget the trolls, forget the haters. Let's just roll with this. And he actually looked happy for maybe 2 minutes of show.
Yeah, he's been a champ. He's been playing along with vegetables on screen, and a year or two ago I wouldn't have thought that he would entertain that idea, but I think he's just live streaming and YouTube and all that's changing, and it has changed over the years, and I think this is something he's looking to lean into now.
I have to say that I do look at you beyond a husky exterior that you present yourself as.
Thank you, sir.
I see behind it, and I see a very witty, funny person.
Dry humor.
I see talent, whatever it is, dry humor, it's you. And be you, do you, boo, is what I'm going to end with. Do you, boo. I appreciate you coming on. I hope to have you back on again. I hope to make you a regular if this goes over well and you'd like to do it again.
That'd be great, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, Noz.
CORNdiff.com. Check it out. Check out his YouTube channel. He's popping on Opie more often. He's got his own interviews. I look at you as an interviewer. I think you're a fellow interviewer.
Thank you. That's all I want to be. That's all I want.
Me too. That's all I really want to be. And me too. All right, CORNdiff. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers. Whoa. Cheers.
Cheers.